Let's do a little bit more map analysis for Super Mario Sunshine. I'm looking at the Delfino Island map. And something struck my eye, which is, I'm not sure how much it's going to give to talk about, but it's about Rico Harbor. Rico Harbor is okay, it's the, what do you call this stuff? Okay, there's a lot to learn about dolphins here, but what I meant was the flipper. The flipper is Rico Harbor. And flippers, the whole like intention of a flipper, I imagine, is more for like swimming, right? Isn't it? Isn't it literally like what they used to swim, the same way that we would use our arms to swim? I think more or less that's it, isn't it? Like a flipper would be... Okay, I'm just looking this up because I need to. Steering. Okay, sure. So it... Oh no, it's flukes. Okay, so it's flukes are for swimming. No. No. The flippers are for steering, and then the tail is for swimming, for the actual like mechanical motion of swimming. So then the flippers are for deciding which direction you're going in, and the dorsal fin, which I don't think I'll talk about just yet, is for overall balance and stability, it seems. It seems like the main three uses that can be observed from just a cursory like search. Okay. So I thought the flippers were for swimming. I see now that pretty funny when you think of it, because I think a dolphin is too big for that to be used for swimming. So, okay, how can we read this? It's complicated. And many of these things sort of contradict one another. So I'm not sure how much of this is just, how much of this is worthwhile, I could say. But I'm going to just do a reading and see what happens, see where it takes us. You see, what struck me about Rico Harbor is that it's one of those areas in the game that's, in my opinion, distinctly different from the others. Because it's not exactly a relaxing holiday location. You know, most other areas are, let's just look through them a second. Right? Yeah, most other areas, maybe not Corona Mountain, but let's say Corona Mountain isn't exactly an area in that it's just a boss encounter. Most other areas are fun. The typical idea of enjoyable holiday locations is either a beach or an amusement park or a hotel or a nice, picturesque villa, a town, a bustling town square, and so on. And then Rico Harbor is not so much a place of holidaying and having fun and enjoying yourself in this specific holiday way, but work. It's a place of work, it seems. It's a place of manual labor, right? It's a place of working on the ships and on all the structures built around Rico Harbor evoke like a building site. I don't know if it's what it's trying to evoke. I feel like it evokes building site aesthetics, like just metal structures, cranes, planks that you would walk over if you were going to like fix something on the ships or like build a structure in the sea or something like that. It seems like a place where you would work. And most of the surrounding area it isn't that big. There are a few houses which evoke like a seaside, a harbor town, and then everything else is like oriented towards the what seems to be work on the ships and on the harbor, like these big like stone tower structures and three little houses that could be like changing rooms, I don't know, or garages, something like that. But it feels like I don't know, it feels like that. And another thing that evokes this, well, and there's a helicopter landing pad as well, isn't there? And another thing that evokes this all is the black goop in the water. The water is polluted, as far as I can tell. I'm not sure if it's supposed to be polluted by the squids, like it's squid ink or something. But even if it is, the kind of image, like when a human being, I think, if we see this sort of an image and we see black, oily stuff in the water next to some ships and some building structures, it seems like it's, like it's, pollution, petroleum or whatever, black, what you call it? God, you know what I mean? That stuff. Petroleum, things to make, energy material. Right, oil, basically, right? An oil spill, something like that. And so that kind of stuff, an oil spill, is very different from the kind of holiday environments seen in the other areas. It's very evocative of a place where work is being done, oil is being put into the ships, there are accidents, the oil spills into the sea, and there's very little else. There's very little like touristy stuff. It's just the harbor where you work, right? And that kind of caught my eye because I thought, well, it's the only like work area in the game, and it's associated to the flipper. So originally I was like, oh, well, maybe it makes sense because the flipper is like the part of the body of the dolphin that is doing the work, all of the work necessary for swimming. But that's not the case, right? I think that the flipper is more just for orienting and directing. So I'm going to see now, because I was trying to sort of reflect on this, and I'm not sure how much of my reading now is just going to be me trying to shoehorn my theory onto the game more than usual, or how much of it is actually something relating to the complication of this game. So I'm going to, assume that it is. I'm just going to assume that it's just a complicated thing that needs to be explored, and see how far that assumption kind of can take us. Because you could say, excuse me, like, okay, you know what? Maybe one way of looking at this is just heading somewhere completely different and going to Noki Bay and looking at Noki Bay for a second. Because there are things about Noki Bay that I definitely want to say, and maybe they can lead us somewhere else. So Noki Bay is strange. In the last video, I said how there seems to be maybe a way in which Noki Bay has something to do with the shells on the backs of the Nokis, and then that being associated to the back of the dolphin where the level is. So I really do think like this level has something to do with shells in some way. In some ways, I think it's pretty conscious, pretty out in the surface, because the level it not only features the Nokis with shells on their backs, But it seems as if the Nokis themselves, even though they have shells on their backs, they live inside of even bigger shells. Or the level is decorated with these big shells that you can enter. Different kinds of shells. Some are like much more obviously snail-like shells, and others are more the sort of spirally, spiky ones. But there are all sorts of shells in the area. So the area is filled with shells. Okay. That's an interesting idea in and of itself, because what it would mean is that the Noki town is a place that has consciously grabbed shells, big shells that, belong to other animals. They're too big for the Nokis to wear, you would assume. They've taken these shells and they've adopted them as houses of some sort, or at least as structures. It's architecture. It's clearly architecture. It may be decorative, but it's some sort of a building. They are used as buildings. Some you can actually enter into. Like one of them is like a portal into the other, Shadow Mario dimension, whatever. So they have a sort of a building-like quality to it, a house-like quality. And so we know that these kinds of animals that have shells can retreat into their shells. And I think even the Nokis at some point in the level, that you can see them retreat into their shell. I'm not sure about that. But we know that those animals do that. So the shell is already architecture, is already a house for these animals. But then these animals, like in this case, the Nokis, are using shells explicitly as architecture to build their town. What does all this mean? All this just means that the shell is very heavily emphasized as house, but also as body. It's a house that is also a body, let's say. It's a shell that's also a body. It's also where the self is in that shell, in that body. I think something like that is happening. Okay. Now, however, Noki Bay does something else. It does a bunch of things. It's very complicated. It has ancient ruins. You see, it has a lot of ancient ruins to begin with. And ancient ruins are already a shell. You see, like, the shells that they're living in, the shells that decorate the bay, are empty shells, meaning they're either the shells of animals who have died, or they're shells of animals who are no longer there, who've changed shells, So they're empty shells. I think this relates to the ruins, because the ruins are also empty shells. They are buildings, so it's architecture. Again, it's this idea of architecture, of a house, a building, a place that you can go in or into, in and out of, right? But no one is living there anymore. It's empty. No one's living there. It's a ruin. It's an ancient ruin. It's a shell that someone was in at some point and is no longer in. That's the idea, right? And then underwater, there is another huge ruin. It's the ruin of their ancestors, I think. They explicitly speak of it this way, of like their ancestors lived underwater in this ancient civilization. But now they don't. It's just a flooded city. And when you go down there and you look at it, it is a flooded city. It's a shell. It's a ruin. It's buildings. It's a building that is no longer inhabited. It's empty. Okay, so those are things. But then, even in the ruins up above, there are how do I speak of this? There are jars, vessels inside the ruins. So the ruins all seem to. Okay, it's a complicated structure. I think that the ruins all sort of are circling around a central chamber, and this central chamber is a tomb. It's a tomb, so it's also an empty place for a dead person, and therefore. Well, no, scrap the therefore. It's a tomb. And it's a tomb filled with jars. Right? That is it's interesting. It's weird because why are there jars? It seems like they're simply decorative jars, right? We're told by the old Noki, the venerable, wise Noki man, that it's the tomb of an ancient king, maybe a Noki king. I can't remember. It's the tomb of the king. The king is dead, and this is his tomb. So you would assume maybe, as happens very often in tombs, that it's decorated because it's the tomb of a king. Right? At least that's the theory, right? That's one of the theories that are usually given as to why tombs are decorated this way. That it's a tomb of a king, therefore it's decorated with all sorts of precious items in honor and glory of the king. So maybe that's why it's filled with ancient jars and stuff like that, because it's just a special place. But see, I think that's weird. I think it resonates with the level in all sorts of strange ways. And maybe we can go back to that in a second. But let's look at this. This is the area of the game. I don't know where to start with this stuff. It's all too interconnected. It's very weird to talk about. But this is the area where you use the big underwater helmet thing. I'm not sure if you use this in many other areas. At least it's sort of introduced in this area as part of the plot of the area, which is the ancient Noki King has discovered a way to help you, Mario, deal with the eel that's under the water. And it's a shell, basically. It's this, container that you fit yourself into. You fit yourself into this container, and then this container allows you to do all these things that you couldn't do before. If this is the only area where this is used, I guess I could check that, but... So I'm not sure, but it seems like it. It seems like it literally is the only area in Super Mario 64, Sunshine, where you use the fucking helmet underwater. And I don't know, right? Like, someone will have to help me with this. If you know that it's like used, it's not the only area, then please let me know. I'm not sure, but I think it is. And if it is, right, then that's a little strange, I think, because look at this, for example. Look at this other example. In the secret area in this level, like your typical Shadow Mario grabs your stuff kind of area. It starts with you inside a transparent container of some kind. You start inside a transparent container, and then you go out of it and you complete the level, right? I'm going to check if there's anything else. This is the only level where this happens. I'm pretty sure. I looked through the whole secret areas of the game. I don't think there's a single secret area where you're inside a glass container. It's not something that happens again. It's not an image that's recurring. Like most other secret areas, you're outside and everything's sort of made of wood, and or maybe it's not everything made of wood, but you're not in that situation where you're sort of inside a glass container, which is what it is. It's clearly a glass container of some kind. You're in it. You start in it. Now, in this level, you go into a bottle. You go into a glass container, a bottle. And in that glass container, you learn how to use the helmet. Like, the whole reason you go down into the bottle, into the glass container, is so that you can learn to use the glass container that you are in. The helmet. You see? Now, the glass container in the secret level is funny because the secret level is called the shell's secret. It's inside the shell. You go into one of the shells that's up at the top of the level. You go into the shell, and then once you're in the shell, you find yourself inside a glass vessel. And you exit this vessel, and then you complete the level. And the way that you're using the glass bottle to explore and deal with using this helmet, I think is funny too, because you're in a world of shells. Now, so does this make any sense? I feel as if this game, this level in particular, is highlighting the theme of shells. But what we're learning through this glass container business is that I feel there is also a sort of confluence of meanings between shell and container, and therefore vessel of some kind. A bottle. A bottle. Now, okay, remember, the ancient Noki king tomb was filled with jars. You know, I think a jar, you could argue a jar is in the same symbolic domain, you could argue, as a bottle. You could argue otherwise too, but this is the argument I'm going to make, is that that they are vessels, containers, and you could keep, liquid in it. You could keep the same way you can keep liquid in a bottle, I think we're talking about the same symbol, the same symbolism, the symbolism of the vessel. And so it's getting mixed up with the shell. And the shell, remember, is the body of the people who are wearing it. The Noki or the snail or whatever animal is wearing the shell is living in the shell. The shell is their body. Their body is being associated to bottles and, shells, containers, vases, jars, and so on. Ruins. Ruins in the sense of an empty building that no longer has anyone in it, but still it's a place where you would live. So why this ruin, right? Well, it's the tomb of a king, and this tomb is surrounded by vessels. By these vessels, these empty vessels are filled. You fall into the tomb, and that's what you see: vessels all around you, in an area that is filled with this symbolism. So I think that there is something about this happening in this area. And by extension, there is something about the theme of vessel that somehow is central to Super Mario Sunshine, but is expressed through this level. This is the level where those themes are being explored and expressed in their, like, I think one of their most condensed forms. I get a feeling maybe we should go back to Ricco Harbor and Pinner Park and just at least try to finish that thought, because I kind of left it really hanging there. So I thought that Ricco Harbor was different from the other areas of the game because it had something to do with work, and that maybe that's why it was placed in the flipper. Now, I'm not sure if that's the case, but I feel more confident in saying that it is different from the other areas in that it is about work. And that does place it in an interesting relationship in regards to the story of the game, because, again, the story of the game is about going on holiday in order to not work. And what Mario finds out is that he needs to work. He he can't go on holiday. He tries to go on holiday, but it's weird. He tries to go on holiday, but his shadow vandalizes the town or something, and then he needs to go and clean that up. And so he is forced to do labor. He does forced labor for the entirety of his holiday. His holiday is forced labor, even though he'd gone there to holiday, right? So there is a weird interplay between work and play in the game, and what the game is weirdly doing is that you're working, you're doing forced labor, but you're doing it in amazingly beautiful holiday locations. But it's amazingly beautiful holiday locations that somehow have been smeared or polluted by some element of non-fun, and that those are partly the things that Mario is having to deal with, right? Mario is not just having to deal with the graffiti, he's also dealing with the little problems and issues that arise in each one of the locations. You know, someone has lost their chain chomp or something, you know, like, it's a holiday, it's a fun place, but there are work-like things that need to be done. And so it's funny, in a way, I realize now that Noki Bay and Ricco Harbor may be actually connected. I said this in a previous video a long time ago, but I'm realizing now again, looking at it now, that there is an interesting symmetry between Ricco Harbor and Noki Bay, because they are, you know, they are both the second level of their particular 4-level wheel. You have 4 levels that culminate in Pinner Park. Pinner Park then has the first boss battle, you could say, the first battle against Bowser, and a big storyline cutscene. Then you have the final 4 levels, and the 4th one is the boss battle against Bowser, and a big cutscene, and so on, right? So it seems to divide itself into these 4 blocks, and in these 4 blocks, the second level in each block is a level in which the waters have been polluted in some way, right? In Ricco Harbor, there seems to be an oil spill or something that is reminiscent of an oil spill, and Noki Bay, there also seems to be some sort of a oil spill, But the cause of this oil spill is mysterious. No one quite knows why the water is polluted until you discover that it is underground, in the depths of the water. You see, the pollution was coming from the water itself, from the depths of the water. See, it's interesting because the old wise Noki has different theories as to why the water is polluted. It's like, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. And the first theory that he has is that it's something external to the water. He's like, there must be something up on the mountain that's producing like some goop that's spilling down into the ocean or something. Or, there is some reason, well, it's something to do with the waterfall. But in any case, it's the idea that something external is causing the pollution of the water. And then he's like, oh no, actually, it's not that something is affecting the water. It's that the depths of the water are affecting how the water presents itself. See, I think it's a metaphor for like the depths of the issue itself. It's like saying, okay, it's the shadow. It's the whole idea of the shadow, right? It's just that you think that this issue that's occurring has to do with this thing or this other thing, but no, it's somehow it's in the depths of the issue itself. It's in the depths of the internal structure itself, and the depths of the internal structure itself appear to be or are represented by an ancient civilization of Nokis, the shells in which the past generations of Nokis lived, which have now been obviously, covered in a sense by the waters of history somehow. They're sunk, right? But in there lives a giant like snake that is the cause of the pollution of the water. It's not even the snake's fault. It's the fact that this snake has been unattended. It's the fact that the snake has been unattended and is rotting. It's so funny. It's such a classic like Freudian thing of repression, right? It's something has been unattended and is what the usual word people use is festering down there. And then Mario goes down there and pays close attention to it, cleans whatever needs cleaning, and then boom, the waters are pure again. But in Ricco Harbor, you're not aware of the cause of why the water is polluted. It's just there. You don't investigate it. It's not part of the level, right? So it's funny, I think, that there is this double wheel where you go through the first 4 levels, boom, then you go through the second 4 levels, and the second 4 levels, in some weird way, maybe explore themes of the first 4, but exploring them in depth or doing something like that. Maybe, not sure. Anyway, it's weird. It's so strange. Pinner Park. I don't know. What can we say about Pinner Park? Well, Pinner Park then. Yeesh. Pinner Park is this mechanical wonderland. It's machines hitting other machines, pressing other buttons. It's like a world of pure mechanical energy. It's machines, and this presses this thing, and this presses this other thing, and this machine is a machine that has something to do with fun. And then at some point, this fun transforms into terror, because it transforms into Bowser. That's weird. So the fun transforms into Bowser. You thought it was like a good thing, and then suddenly it's like what you didn't want. You thought it's what you wanted, and then suddenly it's what you didn't want. It transforms into Bowser midway. It fuses into him. Right? And in the picture of the dolphin, this is the tail, which would be what is used to swim, to move forward. Now, instantly, that already brings to mind the idea that, well, yes, this is a world of movement. It's a world of pendulum rides, Ferris wheels. It's things moving, things going round and round and up and down and spinning and penduluming, and it's just pure sort of perpetual motion of like atoms bang against other atoms. It's like this world of like mechanical movement. So it's funny that this would be the level that moves the dolphin, because it is, maybe that's why. It's a level about motion itself, about movement. But then another thing that comes to mind is that really the idea of the polluted waters is very present in this game. Maybe this is the last thing to be explored in this video, but the theme of the polluted waters is very present, I'm seeing, right? So I was associating it mainly to Noki Bay and whatever, the Ricco Harbor. But obviously I realized that Bianco Hills also has a polluted lake, right? So it's a very present theme, the idea of polluted waters. I wonder what this is. At some like historical level, I imagine that this, in a sense, has to do with its time. This is a game from 2002, and I suppose that, I don't know, I get the feeling that it sort of exists within the kind of media that make references to environmental pollution, which I feel that around that time, I suppose, I'm not sure when that sort of idea starts seeping into pop culture, but I feel it's like late 90s, early 2000s or something, that there is this way in which a lot of pop culture incorporates within itself the idea of the environment is being polluted, right? So maybe this is, in a sense, just Mario introducing this idea into its game, which would be interesting in its own right. But I think also that, see, we get two different kinds of water in this game, because we get polluted water, and then we get waters from which something evil emerges. You have the waters at the top of the volcano are waters in which Bowser is bathing, right? So it's this enormous body of water that incorporates within itself something evil to Mario, something that Mario doesn't want, let's say. And then we have Pinner Park, obviously, where we also have a circular body of water from which Bowser emerges, right? Which is also, again, something that is not wanted. So this theme, it gets somehow fused with the pollution theme, because we learn that the source of pollution was the giant snake, the snake hiding inside the waters with its polluted, being, which then demands attention. It's something that is demanding to be listened to. It wasn't being attended to. It was hidden down in history, in the depths of the unconscious. And then it is listened to. So it's as if, there is the polluted water, and then there is the water. It's almost as if the water where Bowser is hiding is synonymous with the polluted water. It's a water which hosts something, a part of Mario that Mario is not listening to, or something like that. Or something. It doesn't matter. It's something that Mario is not listening to. And that is like the pollution. It somehow like represents pollution. So that's enough, I think. That's enough for now. And again, we'll continue talking about this and see you on the other side. Bye.